Hi, welcome to Cyber 1500 Command Line Environments. My name is Perry Kopus. I will be the instructor that will be guiding you through this semester. This is an online course, which is why rather than sitting in a classroom right now, you're sitting, well, wherever you're sitting, and watching video content instead. But over the course of the next 15 weeks, I will be leading you through the content according to the syllabus for the course, which you can find on Blackboard. There's a link on the left side that says syllabus, and that's where the syllabus lives. So if it's convenient for you, that is to say, if you're not watching this on your cell phone, but you have your laptop or something available to you, if it's convenient, go ahead and bring the syllabus up, and in a short time we'll look through that. First, a little bit of rationale. Back in the bad old days, we didn't have graphical user interfaces to interface with a computer. The primary way that human beings interacted with computers was via a keyboard and a screen that only showed text characters. And so you would type commands in, and the computer would respond with whatever it was supposed to respond with. And this was simply the way it was. Then, of course, with the advent of various computers in the 80s that had graphical user interfaces, we have advanced quite a long way, actually. And the primary way we interact with computers certainly isn't through a command line interface. And all of that is well and good for the vast majority of users of computers. Basically, computers have become very easy and very accessible for anyone to use. That doesn't mean, however, that a graphical user interface is always the best kind of interface. As a matter of fact, graphical user interfaces are fantastic for making things easy and accessible for people, and sometimes they're much faster to use than the kind of old school command line interface. However, the fact of the matter is that the command line interface is often much faster for certain kinds of tasks, and it is much more flexible for certain kinds of tasks than the graphical user interface. There are some things in modern operating systems that you simply cannot do without a command line environment or command line interface. That is to say, no one's built graphical user interface tools to do the thing that you need to do, but it is something that can be done on the operating system you're working on, and the way that you would do that is via a command line environment. So what is a command line environment? We're talking about a context where you can type in commands and the computer can respond, and the primary medium there are text characters that are displayed. So you're typing text in, the computer is giving you text back out, indicating what it's doing or what the result of the operations you were performing were, or whatever. Again, this is the way we used to interact with computers. Most users have no need to do that, but guess what? You're not most users because you're in this class. That means you're either a cybersecurity student or perhaps a computer science student, something like that. You're going to be using all of the tools that the operating system has available for you at one point or another, or at least a good portion of them. You're going to need some power tools. You're going to need to be able to get kind of under the hood and work at a little lower level with the operating systems you interact with. And to do that, you need to be trained in command line environments. So what a great situation. You're in this class. That means you have an opportunity not only to learn the command line environments and get comfortable with that, but you can even gain credit for it at the same time, college credit. So this is really fantastic, right? You don't have to just teach yourself this. Because I tell you, if you're a professional in one of these fields, you will use the command line interface and you will get comfortable with it at some point. So it may as well be now. Some of you may have some experience with this already. Some of you might have a lot of experience. Maybe you've already worked in industry and you've been using the command line for a long time. Maybe you've self-taught. for something that you've been working on, etc. So you might have a lot of experience already. You're having to take the course perhaps because it's a requirement for your degree. If that's the case, understood. I'm glad that you're here as well, because if nothing else, one thing you'll gain from this course almost certainly is additional breadth, because we will cover pretty good breadth, and that includes not only getting around on the command line, but also doing scripting and some other things. So if you have some experience, that's great. That'll make some of this easy for you. If you don't have any experience, though, I want to speak specifically to you. This can be an intimidating topic for a lot of people. You're looking at a command line interface there, and there's a blinking cursor. It's almost as bad as having a blank piece of paper to begin your essay and a final exam, right? There's nothing more intimidating than a blank piece of paper or a blinking cursor waiting for you to type something in that will actually generate the kind of results that you want. But don't be intimidated by it. This course is for you. This is a 1,000 level course. It's designed for someone who does not have any experience in these things to be able to get what they need out of the content that we've arranged, so that by the end of this course you'll be pretty comfortable. I will not say that you will be an expert in the command line by the end of this course. That would be to say that you would master everything in the operating systems we're going to address, which are Linux and Windows, that you would know everything those operating systems can do, and everything that you need to know to be able to interact with them to perform any task. That would be a huge undertaking indeed. To be such an expert will require many years of effort and work on your part, if ever you will become an expert in those things. So that's not really the point. But the point is to get you comfortable, so that you can work in those environments and you can do the things that you need to do in your profession. And I tell you, you will use these things. If you're cybersecurity, you'll constantly be using command line tools. Anytime you're doing, for example, ethical hacking, you're trying to penetrate a system, you will be using tools that other people have written, and guess what? For the most part, they do not have graphical user interfaces. Graphical user interfaces take a long time to construct, and are a little fiddly, and people just don't mess with them. Besides that, as you will find over the course of our time together here, sometimes it's just slower to do it with the graphical user interface. So a power user will prefer the command line every time, and those tools are built for power users. So it's just the way it is. You'll use it every day. If you are a computer science person, you're going to be a software developer. I tell you, I do a lot of software work in industry. I work for a large and multi-billion-dollar consumer technology company. And I write software, and when I'm writing software, I'm using the command line every single day. The reason that I do that, there are many reasons. Sometimes it's the same thing as for the cyber people. The tools that I'm using are only command line tools. But oftentimes it's really to save time or to automate tasks that need to be done. Just a few days ago, I had a bunch of radar data. That is to say, several hundred files that had been collected by a device. And I had a program that was going to parse all of that radar data and pull some interesting metrics out of it. The problem that I had is that the device made its own directory structure, stuck all the files in there, and all the files were called the same thing, but they were in a directory structure that distinguished between them. In other words, different directories, different names. What I needed was each of those files to be renamed to something else, each one to have a unique name, and I needed them in a flat directory structure because I had a program that was going to parse them all and was expecting them in a certain way, in a certain place. So going and renaming all of those files by hand would have been more than annoying. There were several hundred of them. Moving them to where they needed to be, giving them all a correct name. I would have made mistakes. It would have been tedious and really kind of dumb to do it that way. So I actually wrote a bash script, and you'll learn to do this in this course. I wrote a bash script to go and grab all those files, rename them, stick them in a directory. It's a short little thing. I think it was 7 or 8 lines of code or commands that I put in the script. It took me about 10 minutes to write that and get it functioning the way that I wanted, so that it was giving me the result that I wanted and some good feedback, and I was pleased with it. Then it processed, in this case, several hundred megabytes of files, and got them ready to be ingested by this other program. So just an example, something that in a few minutes I was able to do something that doing it using the graphical user interface would have taken me literally a couple, 3-4 hours to do if I had chosen to do it that way. So just one example to indicate how you might use this content if you're not a cybersecurity person, but you're a computer science person. So anyway, enough of that, enough rationale for the course. The main rationale for the course is most of you are probably taking it because it's a required part of the program. So granted, you're here because you have to be, but I want you to have a sense that this is a good place to be because you're going to need the content as well, and I promise you that'll be the case. So I'm taking a look at the syllabus here, and so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at, and I've got the document here. I thought I would just walk through it with you. So again, if you have that handy, that would help as you go through the video. First thing to note is the format of this course. This is an exclusively online course. What that means is that our primary way of interacting that would correspond to a lecture format in a normal course is what we're doing right here. That is to say, I'm recording a video and you'll be watching the video. Most of the time you won't be looking at me. Most of the time you'll be seeing a computer screen, and I'll just provide voiceover. So occasionally throughout the course I might pop back in like this and give you a little bit of eye contact, but most of the time you'll just be hearing my disembodied voice and seeing my screen while I'm doing things and demonstrating some things. But video, there will be a fair bit of video content in the course. The second thing I want to say about online courses, and this is really crucial, the rhythm of an online course is a little bit different. It needs to be a little bit different just because we never kind of have that face-to-face opportunity to interact that you would have in a normal course. You know, one of the nice things about the rhythm of a face-to-face course is that you have to think about the course frequently. You have to think about it because you actually have to go there and sit in a classroom and interact with the professor. And with an online course, it's very easy for it not to run that way, and maybe you go a long time without thinking about the course. So, and if you go a long time without thinking about a course, the problem is things sneak up on you, and it's difficult really to meet the objectives. So the way I go about solving that is to make a rhythm for the course that's pretty regular, just like it would be for a course that's not an online course. What I mean to say by that is you'll be engaging this course every single week. This is necessary. You'll keep your head in this course and keep progressing and moving toward goals, and you'll do that week by week. The way that I've structured the course is that there will be weekly work to do, which consists of a weekly assignment and a weekly quiz. So that means every single week you'll be doing some assignment, and every single week you'll be taking a quiz. And these constitute the bulk of the grade, as we'll discuss here in a few minutes. Someone will ask me, first of all, what kind of workload are we talking about? Second of all, can you just give me all the assignments so that I can, blast through them here in the next few days and not have to mess with this course anymore? Let me answer the second question first. The short answer is no. And more specifically, this is not a self-paced course. This is a course that is, again, designed with a certain rhythm. It's a weekly rhythm, and everyone is going to go at essentially the same pace. If you have prior experience and you're already good at this, and the command line is quite familiar to you, that means it will go faster for you each week. That's wonderful for you. But no, I will not give you all the assignments in advance. One of the reasons for that is that I need to have everyone turning in the assignments at the same time so that I can provide model answers for some of the things, especially as we get into scripting and the like. Oftentimes people will want to see, what does a correct answer for this look like, or what does an optimal answer for this look like. And I can't very well provide that for some students who have turned in work prior to everybody else turning in work, because unfortunately people tend to share that stuff around, and it means then I would have to come up with individual assignments for every person in the class. I can't really do that. So we're going to go through the course at the same pace. To the first question, what is the workload? The workload in this course, some of the weeks are going to be heavier than others. I try to balance it out, but you should really expect the workload to be similar to what you would have in any other course that you're receiving 3 hours of credit for. A 3-hour course, the general expectation, and there's something on this on page 1 on the syllabus, okay? Generally you're going to spend 50 minutes per, let's say it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. It's 50 minutes times 3 each week. Okay, that's about 2.5 hours. Okay, and the general expectation for a 3-hour course is that you spend twice as much time outside of class as you spend in class. So think about that. For a 3-hour class, that's 7.5 hours a week, of which 2.5 hours is being in class and 5 hours is outside of class. That is the standard expectation for a 3-hour course. And if you take that and multiply times 5, that is 15 credit hours. That's 5 times 7.5. What does that come out to? 37.5 hours a week. Guess what? That's essentially a full-time job, right? A full-time job is 40 hours per week. So as a student at the university, if you're taking 15 hours, the expectation is that's about a 40-hour-a-week job. All right? So given that, you would say for a 3 credit hour course, you would expect around 7.5 hours a week of total engagement, of which a third is in class. Well, guess what? You just saved the 2.5 hours for being in class, although you have to watch some videos, but it won't be 2.5 hours worth. Okay, so you just saved that time. But now what will the workload be? I would suggest most students can probably accomplish the work in this course from week to week in between, let's say, 3 to 5 hours. It could be a little more than that sometimes. It could be a fair bit less than that. And again, if you have prior experience, you might fly through some of this stuff faster. That's great. But figure on a workload like that. I think it'll be a little lighter than most 3-hour courses, but it is a 1,000 level course and it's not designed to be hard. But you will have to keep up from week to week. Next, I'm turning the page in the syllabus to page 2. I'm going to talk about equipment a little bit. So again, if you're following along, I'm on page 2. What about equipment? You're going to be running Linux and Windows operating systems in this course. And the way that we will do this is you'll install these on a virtual machine. What's a virtual machine? Well, glad you asked. You'll hear more about this in another video for this week that will go through the things you need to know for your first assignment. But essentially a virtual machine is a software environment that looks like a computer to the operating system that's running on it, but in fact it's just a virtual computer. That is to say, it's software that looks like the hardware of a computer to the operating system. So the operating system happily runs, but in fact it's just running inside a window inside another operating system. If that's confusing, don't worry about it. We'll get into it more in the subsequent video. But to be able to do this, you're going to use a piece of software called VirtualBox. And VirtualBox allows you to run one operating system essentially inside another operating system. So you'll be running the Linux operating system, Linux Mint in particular, if you will follow my example. And you can run that on a Windows computer, or you can run that on an Apple computer, or you can run that on a variety of machines. So whatever you generally use for your studies, that's the machine that you would use for this. You'll install VirtualBox on that, and then you can run any operating system within that VirtualBox environment that you want to. To do that, you're going to need a computer that isn't super low spec. If you have a Chromebook, that isn't going to get it for this. That won't work. If you have a Windows PC or Mac that's relatively modern, with at least 4 gigabytes of random access memory and at least about 40 gigabytes free of hard disk space, you should probably be able to get that to work. It's preferable to have more than 4 gigabytes of RAM. If you had 6 or 8, I've seen some machines that had 6, which is kind of an odd number. Usually it's powers of 2. But if you have 8 gigabytes of RAM or more, then you're not going to have any problems whatsoever running this stuff. And again, you will need some hard disk space free to be able to create virtual machines. Now, what if you don't have your own equipment? Well, if you're taking this remotely, that is to say, you're not at the Warrensburg campus. That would apply, for instance, for our folks who are mainly taking their degree at the Lee Summit MIC campus. But if that's your situation, you have to have your own equipment. There's nothing else I can really do for you. Though you're at Warrensburg, we do have some machines that have VirtualBox installed. They are in the lab that's behind the student lounge that's on the second floor. I can't remember the room number, but it's right next to the computer science office on the second floor of WCM, William C. Morris Hall. So you've got that nice little student lounge that looks like a Starbucks, except there's no barista. And behind that, there's a kind of a long room with a bunch of computers. My understanding is that VirtualBox is installed on all those machines, and you would be able to set up your own virtual machine on a USB stick. So that's where your storage would be, and then you can start that using VirtualBox on one of those machines, and you've got your environment right there on a USB stick. So that's certainly doable. So use your own equipment or use the lab there. Communications, couple things. Blackboard is, of course, our main point of contact. We're also using the forums feature in Blackboard, or discussion. I think they call them discussion groups or something, but I don't know. But anyway, it's basically an online forum on Blackboard. We'll be using that for course communications as well, particularly for questions. So more on that here in a little bit. But when you have questions, the first place to go really will be the forum on Blackboard. I'm going to walk you through Blackboard here in a few minutes and show you those things and talk a little more about that. Okay, office hours. Most professors have office hours, but just like you're not most computer users, I'm not most professors, because I have a job in the daytime that is not at the university. And that makes me what is called an adjunct professor. That means that I teach sometimes, but I'm not full-time faculty at the university. So because of that, there is no time that I don't even have an office at University of Central Missouri. Well, my office is the world, right? So it is 2019. We can communicate other ways, and those other ways will include the forum on Blackboard, where you can ask questions, and the beauty of using that is that your classmates can not only help to answer those questions, but other people can find the question and the good answer, so that knowledge kind of grows in as much as everyone participates. But the second thing that you can do is you can send me an email, and my email is listed here. I think on the next page there of the syllabus. So you can use my email to communicate with me as well. Since I do work during the day, I don't always get to answer emails or communications during the workday. So oftentimes that's going to happen in the evenings or in the very early morning hours. So generally you should expect me to respond to a communication within about 24 hours. That makes it rather important that if you're having problems with something or you're having a difficulty, you need some help, don't wait until the last minute before something is due and just with the kind of forlorn hope that someone's going to be able to answer you in 10 minutes or something so you can get something turned in. Start these assignments a little bit early, as we'll discuss. I like to give you a week. Anytime I assign something, I give you a week to turn that around. So if you wait 6.9 days to get started on it, then it's going to be rather difficult for you to secure any help if you have trouble. But if you started on day 1 or day 2 or day 3, then there's plenty of time to turn those things around. So, okay, next page. I'm on page 3 of the syllabus. Scope, expectation, I've already talked about that. This is a 1,000 level course, so calibrate your expectations accordingly. That means if you're a total beginner, take heart, it'll be fine. And if you already know everything there is to know about the command line, and you're wondering if this course is going to challenge you and push you to new heights, maybe a little bit, maybe more in the area of breadth, but again, calibrate your expectations. Some folks, when faced with a course like this, will say, hey, I already know this stuff, can I test out of it? And the answer to that is no. There's no mechanism to test out of it. Sorry about that. And would love to be able to accommodate, but there's just simply no mechanism at the university to do that. However, there is a mechanism for exceptions if you actually have prior coursework or prior training that has covered this ground. And if that's the case, you don't contact me because I can't do anything about it or make any decision. But Dr. Hyung-Bae Park is the program coordinator for cybersecurity, and he's the one you would want to communicate with. And there in the syllabus, I have his email address if you'd like to do that. Okay, so what else do we want to say? There's my email on page 3. Then at the bottom of the page, I talk about the two texts. There's the Blum and Bresnahan book, Linux Command Line Shell Scripting Bible, the 3rd edition, and then the second one, Learn Windows PowerShell in a Month of Lunches. You're welcome to do this at lunchtime if you want, but you don't have to, as Jones and Hicks suggest. But the books, I have a little picture of them there. Do that at the bottom of the syllabus. And also the ISBN numbers. And these are available in the bookstore. They are also available online. And last time I taught this course, about a year and a half ago, it was $22, I think, for the Linux Command Line and Shell Scripting Bible. And then the Jones and Hicks book for Windows PowerShell was about $21. So you're looking at $43 worth of books. You are going to need them, so go ahead and get them. Again, from the bookstore, from Amazon, whatever is your preference. But do get them, and we're going to start using the Linux one immediely. So if you haven't ordered it, hit the pause button and get that on order immediately, because without that you'll be having a rough time here very, very quickly. Page 4 indicates the course topics, at least most of the things that we'll be covering in the course. I'm not going to read those to you. You can read them yourself, but those are the things essentially that we'll go through. But down toward the bottom of the page, I give you an overview of the evaluated work, and this is how the course grade will be calculated. You have weekly work, weekly quizzes, and a final exam. Nice and simple. 420 points each for the weekly work and weekly quizzes. The final exam is 160. That totals 1,000 points. notice here it says extra credit up to 50 points. What do I give you extra credit for? I give you extra credit for engaging the online forum, and it's not 0 points or 50 points. It's a scale. It's anywhere in there that I choose to reward you for your engagement on the forum. Some points just for posting questions there. If all you ever do is ask questions, then that's worth something, because at least you're using the forum, and other people may get the benefit of the questions that you've asked and the answers that wind up being posted there. And so that's a good and noble thing that you're doing for the community, even if the only thing you ever do is ask a question on the forum. That's great. So that's worth something. What's worth even more is if you're actually providing answers on the forum, or if you come across something that's kind of a neat, you find a website out there that's pretty neat and has a lot of reference information that's helpful and relevant to command line stuff, and you post that so that other people can see it. That's awesome. That's helpful. That's worth some points. If, on the other hand, desiring to show yourself engaged on the forum, you're posting all kinds of irrelevant stuff and fluff and making a bunch of noise, I don't know. That's worth negative points, right? But no, that may not be worth very much. Anyway, use the forum. Keep it relevant, but if you know a little bit more, or you're a little bit ahead, or you feel like you're a pretty good student, and you want to be of some service to other folks, there's a way for you to earn some extra credit points there. Okay, next at the bottom of page 4 and going on to page 5, the details about the evaluated work. I told you can have essentially every week there's going to be an assignment. That gives us 14 weekly assignments. We have 15 weeks, but we'll have 14 assignments is the plan, each one worth 30 points. That's 420. Each one will be its own creature. Basically, I will publish the assignment by 8 o'clock every Monday morning. At least that's the intention. If it runs later than that, if I post it later, I'll give you more time to complete it. But usually I post at 8 a.m. Monday morning. It has to be completed by 11:59 p.m. the following Sunday. So you get almost exactly 7 days. It's a little short of 7. It's like 6.6 days or something, okay, is the amount of time that you have to complete the assignment. So 8 a.m. each Monday, you get the assignment, due 11:59 p.m. the following Sunday, so Sunday night late. You can turn assignments in late, up to 48 hours, but it's an automatic deduction of 10 points. There are no exceptions to this. And so what that means is if it's 47.9 hours late, then it's a deduction of 10 points. That's 1/3, right? Because it's worth 30 points. That's a deduction of 1/3 if it's 47.9 hours late. If it's 3 minutes late, it's a deduction of 10 points. Okay, so the deduction is automatic. It happens immediately when the assignment is late. That is an incentive for you to get it in on time. Nothing will be accepted after 48 hours unless there is a case that's been verified through the Office of Accessibility Services. What that means is, if you slip on ice, heaven forbid, in November, and break your leg, and you have to go to the emergency room, and that's the reason you don't get your assignment in, you would work through the Office of Accessibility Services. They would let me know that, and they would tell me that I'm obliged to let you make up work. That's the kind of situation that I'm talking about when I say extraordinary situations. It's not an extraordinary situation if you say, well, my computer crashed and I had to get that fixed. This is why you want to start well in advance. We have lab computers if you need something, if your machine is down or something like that. If you're doing it the night before, I can't do a lot for you there. Okay, so after 48 hours, no exceptions, there's no credit for the assignment. Now, one of the reasons I do this is that I want to be able to provide model solutions to you for things where there might be multiple ways of solving something, or there might be an optimal way. So especially when we get into scripting and the like, sometimes that becomes important too, because you might have trouble with one assignment and the next assignment might build on that one. And so if you didn't finish the first one, it would be difficult for you to do the next one unless you had a model solution. That is, someone says, here's a working one, start with that, and then you can build on top of it. But in order to be able to give a model solution, I need for everyone to have finished the assignment. And so that means there's a hard cutoff there. Okay. There could be more or less assignments. More is extremely unlikely. The only reason I would do that is if I decided to break something up. But I doubt very seriously there would be more than 14 assignments. If there are, you see the way that we would handle that is I would drop the lowest ones until we get down to 14, and then those 14 would be counted. So I'd give you the benefit of that. But the more likely case is we could elect to have fewer than 14 assignments. We could end up with 12 or something like that. And if we do, then we'll just scale those assignments to the maximum of 420 points. So we'll scale it appropriately so that we still come out to 1,000 points in the course. It's just each one would be worth a little bit more in that case. So that's a more likely scenario. So that could certainly happen. Weekly quizzes, 14 at 30 points each, so just like the homeworks or the assignments that I'll give you. 14 quizzes, it sounds like a lot, but basically those are going to be an incentive for you to stay up with the course material, and they will flow right from the homeworks and from the readings in the textbooks. So the homeworks will cover certain sections in the book, the quizzes likewise. The quizzes, I will make them available by Wednesday morning each week is the plan, 8 a.m. And then you will have until Tuesday night, 11:59 p.m. to complete the quiz. No late quizzes under any circumstances, again, unless there's a case verified through the Office of Accessibility Services. So basically, just like the homework assignment, you have a week to complete the quiz. The quiz follows a couple of days after the assignment, but you know, if it were me, I would probably look at, given a schedule like that, I would say Thursday or Friday each week would be my week I was going to really address the content in this course. And I would do the assignment and the quiz on the same day, get them done, and then I'd be done with the thing for a week. That's the way I would run it, but you'll have to decide how to do it in your case. The final exam will be worth 160 points. It'll be comprehensive, and it will be delivered on starting the Monday of final exam week. So what I will do is I will put the final exam up there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you will have a window of 72 hours to complete it. That is on the Monday of final exam week. It's December 9th, 8 a.m. I'll put it up there. There's a window of 72 hours. Now, you won't have 72 hours to complete it once you start it. Once you start it, you'll have to complete it within the usual time. I think it's 2.5 hours or something like that for a final exam at UCM. 2.5 or 2 3/4, something like that. I'll have to look at it. But whatever that is, whatever that amount of time is, that's how much time you'll have to complete the thing. It'll be short. You won't take anything like that much time to complete it, I promise. But you will have a window of 72 hours in which you can do that. And so what that means is you could take the final exam on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday of finals week. I do that so you've got flexibility. If you have 2 exams on Monday, you don't want another one. And so you could choose to take it Tuesday or Wednesday. So once you start, then you have to complete it. But I need to know immediately if there's anyone for whom that doesn't work. You say, oh, well, I'm actually flying out the Sunday before final exam week, and I've worked that out with my other professors. Well, don't let me know that the week before. Instead, let me know that now. Tell me now that you need a special arrangement to be able to do this. Since it's online, maybe that applies to nobody, and maybe the 72-hour window is big enough and that's going to work for everybody. But if it is impossible for you to do that in that 72-hour window, tell me now and we'll work something out. One thing I wanted to point out, the final exam, you get one shot, you take it one time. I meant to mention this about the quizzes though. The point of the quiz is certainly for you to keep up with the material. At the same time, I also want to make sure that you learn the material and get everything out of it that you can. That's the point, right? Is that you actually learn the material. And so I give you two opportunities on the